Fabulous. So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Thank you, Emmy, for giving us the opportunity to deliver these sessions on behalf of that name woman. Sam is going to be the one who's going to be leading most of this session. However, I thought it would be good for me to just give it a little bit of an intro. So, thank you, everyone who's made the effort to join us, and for those of you who might be listening later on to the recording, you missed out big time. But yes, today we're going to be looking at budgeting and sorry, debts and expenses. My apologies, debts and expenses, and teaching them how to behave because when they misbehave, then they cause us a lot of stress and grief. So Sam is going to be taking us through a set of series in terms of just understanding, what are debts? What does that actually mean? And what are our expenses and what are the main expenses and how should we actually deal with those things and help ourselves to be better in terms of understanding one, how we reduce those debts or get rid of them altogether, and which expenses are really the ones that need our attention and which ones are just a waste of our time and money. Okay, so over to you, Sam. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Lovely. Thank you so much. So let me share my screen. Just bear with me 1 second. Let me share my screen and we'll get started. So, for me, what we're talking about today is a very important subject. And, again, talking about becoming an intentional money woman. For me, when you do something intentionally, you plan to do it. Like my theme last year was actually my theme word last year was intentional, and I was playing there's a song, Intentional, by Travis Green, that I played almost every day, just because I want to be intentional about everything I do. So I think if you're here thinking about money, thinking about becoming a money woman, you're in the right place. And I want to talk about having a made up mind. Your mind is a magnet. If you think of blessings, you attract blessings. If you think of problems, you attract problems. Always cultivate good thoughts, always remain positive and optimistic. And again, Emmy and the organization, that name woman, well done for putting something like this together. I wish we'd covered this kind of stuff when we were in school, but it's never too late. We're here now. We're going to get some of that stuff now. Let me encourage you to, if you have any questions, put it in the chat box. If you have anything that you want to comment on, feel free to use the chat box. I might make this as interactive as possible. I might ask you a few questions. Yes, Emmy, you've raised your hand.
Yes, Sam. On behalf of that name woman, I just want to applaud our founders, Leeds Community Foundation, because they're the ones sponsoring this program.
Fantastic. Yes. So, again, fantastic stuff. Putting something like this together is important. And the more we do this, the better. So, why do we need something like this? And I want to share this stat. Okay. This stat was something that's been done over time. And what this is basically saying is if you take 100 people who started working at the age of 25. They've been to uni, they finished their studies, they're now working from 25, and you follow them for 40 years. So now they're 65. This is what you're going to find. Out of 100 people, you find that 54 will still be depending on the government, on the family, on their friends. 36 will still be working. 5, unfortunately, will not make it. 4 will be okay, and 1 will be wealthy. So as you can see the numbers there, the reason why this information is important is if I was to ask everybody, put in the number of where you would like to be, put in the chat box, where would you like to be? Would you like to be one of the 1 of the 4, 1 of the 5, 1 of the well, hopefully not 1 of the 5, 1 of the 36, or 1 of the 54? Where would you like to be? Let me see some people put some stuff in the chat box. And I've been doing this. Thank you so much for being year number 1. Thank you, Florence. I've been doing this now thank you, everybody who's putting stuff. Exactly. I've been doing this for many, many years. I have not come across anybody that have said they want to be part of the bottom 3. However, statistically, majority of people will be there. Only a small number, only 5% out of 100 are actually okay or wealthy. Now, you being on this call, you intentionally listening to this call later on, playing the recording, getting a pen and paper, making notes, you are putting yourself in the category of the 5%, because you're actually changing your mindset and you're actively doing something about it. So we're going to be talking, this is session 2. We're going to be talking about debts and expenses and teaching those things how to behave. So we're going to start off with debt. You know, it's really important that we ditch the debt. Again, if you look at this lady here, she's weighed down by a school, by life, children, money, time. There's so many things that weighs us down, and money is a big one. Money is a big thing that keeps us down. It stops us from really getting to where we want to be. And you know, I also, rather, my wife and I, we run a mental health school. We teach around mental health first aid. And it's amazing because when you look at suicide, 17 people take their own lives on a daily basis. 17. Majority of the reasons behind those issues is money and relationships. But a lot of the time, behind the relationship is always money. Debt is something that causes people to just not want to be here, because it's a big problem. So how do we help people to come out of debt? And there's so many things. You know, there's payday loans. We have access to payday loans. We have access to all sorts of things. These are just payday loans. I've known people to borrow £200, and before they know it, they owe £2,000. These are places where they think, or you think, they're offering you money out of the goodness of their hearts. A lot of the time, it's for them, not for you. So really important to be aware of these things. There's also this one here, talks about the tricks of the enemy. And what you see here is one of the greatest marketing ploys of all time was taking the word debt and renaming it credit. Basically, what that is saying is this: a lot of us, we go to the bank and the bank offers us credit card. I know for me, so a bit of my story. I came to the UK in 1993, and when I came, I did not understand anything about money. They offered me credit cards, they offered me store cards, they offered me loans. I took everything. I traveled around Europe, I spent money. However, I was quite shocked when they came back to me and said, now we want our money back. I did not know I had to pay that money back. Okay, now it took a lot of time to pay it off, eventually got there. But it's really important that we understand that when we say credit card, credit is a positive word. What you need to think of when you say credit card really is this one here. It's a go broke quick card. All right, because if you don't understand how to use that card there, you will be broke, and you will be broke for many, many years. And I think a lot of us don't understand how credit card works. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. But remember, do not be deceived by the words. These words will drive you, they will understand the words. And this is what they've done. If you're taking notes, if you go online, go and search for a video, and the video is called The Secret History of the Credit Card. The Secret History of the Credit Card. This video actually shows you how they came up with the credit card, how they planned it, and they planned to actually keep people in debt. So go and check that out on YouTube. I'm sure you can find it. Just put in your search engine, you'll be able to find it. But then talking about debt, you know, the reason why a lot of people take debt on is because they don't understand the rule of 72. They don't actually understand how banks make money off their money. So what I like to do now really is to show you what the rule of 72 is. If anybody here has any savings, how much interest are the banks giving people for their savings right now? May not be yours, it could be somebody else's. Does anybody know what interest rates you get from the banks these days if you put your money in the bank? Any suggestion? You can unmute or you can just put it in the chat box. What kind of interest rates are we getting from the banks right now? 2% is good. Yeah, 2% is good. Fantastic. Yeah. Some of them will give you 2%. Majority of them, though, you'll be lucky if you're getting 0.5%. You'll be lucky if you're getting 0.5%, maybe 1 at the most. So let me show you what the rule of 72 is. The rule of 72 is a banking principle that shows you how long it takes for your money to be doubled at a given interest rate. Okay, shows you how long it takes for your money to double at a given interest rate. So, Nancy, let's say you've got £10,000 and you go to your bank, you say, I want to save this £10,000. I'm going to lend it to you. I want you to save it for me. I'm not going to put anything in it. I'm not going to take it out. Just keep it for me. And Nancy, the bank says, you know what, we'll give you 3%. Thank you for lending us your money. This is 3% interest for you. Nancy, what you need to do really is you need to divide 72 by the interest the banks gave you. That's 3. So divide that into 3, you get 24. That means your £10,000 will grow slowly. And after 24 years, you can go to your bank and they'll give you £20,000 after 24 years. If you keep that in for another 24 years, guess what? After 48 years, you can go to your bank and they'll give you £40,000. Does that excite you? I know for me, if I was to wait 48 years for 40,000, I'll be over 100 years old. Okay, I'll probably see the check and get a heart attack because I'll be shocked at the amount of money I'm not getting. Okay, so let's say instead of Nancy putting her money in the bank, Nancy, you talk to Emmy, and Emmy says, you know what, I actually invest, I do investment. Or Emmy says, you know what, I bought a property. I put that £10,000 and I deposited it in a property, in a deposit for a property. So now, instead of you getting 3% for your 10,000, you're now getting 6%. So you've now doubled your interest. Let's see what happens to your money now. Okay, because now if you divide 72 by 6, which is that interest, you get 12. So now, Nancy, your money doubles for you every 12 years. So 20, 40, 80, 160. That's a lot better, isn't it? Would you say that was better? I would say it's a lot better. You know, people think because you double the interest, you've also doubled the outcome. But actually, as you can see, the rules around money is different. And I think that's why a lot of us don't understand it, because the money rules are different. You've actually quadrupled the money. So which I think is great. Now, let me ask you, when you give your money to the bank, or what do most people do with their money? Most people stick their money in the bank. Now, when you put your money in the bank, what do the banks do with your money? Let me ask anybody, you want to share? Anybody know? What do the banks do with your money? Do they, Florence, what do they do with it? You can unmute or you can put it in the chat box.
They invest it.
They invest it, so they get 6% or more. What else do they do with it?
They give it out as loan, innit?
Yeah, they lend it out to people. So how many of you have credit cards? How many of you have loans, have store cards, you know, where you buy now, pay later? How many of you have car finance? So the bank, they've taken that £10,000 that you give to them and they lend it out to somebody else. Let's say they lend it to somebody at 12%. Now, we know right now the average interest the banks are making is 24% on debt. But let's just be conservative and say 12%. So now they've given somebody your £10,000, but they've charged them 12%. Does anybody know how much the banks will make after 48 years? Is anybody willing to try and guess? how much they would have after 48 years on your money that you gave to them. Any guesses? What's your mental maths like?
Terrible.
Anybody got a guess? Or shall I just go for it? You want me to reveal the answer, don't you?
Please.
Yes,
All right.
please.
Okay, there we go. You see that?
Oh, that's a lot of money.
They will make 2.56 million pounds on the same 10,000 pounds that you gave them. They give you 40 and say thank you very much. They might even give you a nice pen and say thanks for coming when they've just kept 2.52 for themselves. It is so important that we understand this is how banks make money off your money. You give them money and they lend it out. And right now they're making more than they've ever made because you'll be lucky to get 1% on your money right now, but they're charging about 24.9% on average for those debts. How do you win a game if you don't know the rules? Okay, now who would benefit from learning this rule? We all will benefit. Okay, and I do believe this should be taught in schools. Okay, we need more of our young people, of our children understand how their money works, because this rule can work for you or against you. It depends on what you do with your money. How many of your friends, let's say you know 10 people, your 10 closest friends who are not here right now, how many of them would know this rule and it's working for them? Not a lot. Now, let me show you the conditioning. We've all been conditioned and we don't even know it that we've been conditioned. And the conditioning basically is this. When we go and borrow money, because we live in England, you will need to borrow money. Sometimes you might want to buy a house. It's difficult to save 100K. So you might need to go and buy a house. It could be to buy a car. It could be a credit card. Whatever it may be, the UK is kind of set up so that you might need to go and borrow money. The issue is we don't know the questions we need to ask. We're conditioned to ask, what's the interest rate? Even though we don't understand the interest rates. All right, we just, what's the interest rate? Oh, we don't know it. Or what's the monthly payment? Those are the questions we'll be conditioned to ask. Now, the questions you should be asking, number one, is how long will it take to pay off? So I'm buying this for £100. I'm paying you £5 a month. How long will it take for me to pay it off based on the interest? Okay, actually, let me use a different example. I'm buying this for £100. I'm going to pay you £10 a month. Normally, that should be 10 months. But because you're adding interest, how long is it going to take me to pay it off? Sometimes it's twice that. Okay, so how long will it take me to pay it off? That's the question you should be asking. And then how much will I pay in total? If you borrow £100, I've seen cases where people are paying back £250. Okay, so these are the questions we should be asking. And what you see is this, we call this the debt trap. Okay, this is the debt trap. Let's imagine you owe £3,000 on a credit card and it's 20.9%. Okay, now every month they tell you you can pay off the minimum of 2%. You don't make any new purchases. All right. So you've only got £3,000 to pay off. How long will it take you to pay off the credit card? There's three options: 19, 29, or 90. What do you think? Every month you pay off minimum of 2% because they tell you can pay the minimum. And a lot of us, we pay the minimum on our debts. Okay, so how long will it take you to pay this money off if you're just doing the minimum? Thank you, Florence. You're on point. Yeah, absolutely spot on, Florence. 90 years. Now, let me ask you another question. How much will you pay in interest? 3, 12, or 23? I'm sure you would, the answer to that is it's straightforward. It's 23,000 pounds. He only borrowed 3,000. But for a lot of us, we don't ask the right questions, and they say, just pay the minimum, just pay the minimum. And we're comfortable paying the minimum. We don't realize that we're paying a lot more over a longer period of time. This education, this knowledge, we should be teaching our children. We should know it ourselves, but we should be teaching our young people, because majority of us do not know this. And there's different types of debt. There's something we call revolving debt, and there's something we call a fixed debt. What is the revolving debt? This is an example. A revolving debt, somebody's borrowed 17,000 pounds at 18%, they're paying back 595 per month. That person will pay this debt off in 17 years and 2 months, and they will have paid 12,500 pounds in interest. Okay, this is a revolving debt. Then you've got the fixed debt. Okay, a fixed debt. Thank you, Gilda. A fixed debt is basically you fix it. It's like a loan. For example, you say, okay, I want this over the next 48 months. All right. So a fixed debt of the same amount, 17,000 at 18%, but you fixed the monthly payment. That is 3 years and 2 months. What you see here really is that a lot of people do not understand the difference. A credit card will be a revolving debt. The interest on that money is added to it every single month, and you continue to pay it and pay it and pay it. So really important to understand the difference. When you're borrowing money, what kind of debt are you taking on? Are you taking on a revolving debt? You can imagine the revolving door where you're just going round and round in circle, you're chasing your own tail, okay? Or a fixed debt where you have a time, you have a cutoff date, and you've got your mission. You're intentional about paying it off at this particular time. So that's really talking about the different types of debt. Now, something we teach is what we call debt stacking, okay? If you look at this, this is the same debt, okay? Without stacking, it's taking this person 23 years. And actually, let me explain it differently. Let me just show you the concept, okay? This is somebody who owes a retail card, they're paying 220 a month. They got a credit card, they're paying this a month. They've got a car loan, they've got credit card one, the second credit card, and they've got a mortgage. So every month, this person is paying back 2,720. Every month, they're paying that back. Now, let's say this person is continue paying this 220 and they finish paying it off, let's just say in June this year. Now that they finish paying that retail card, what do most people do with that 220? What do you think? Anybody, what do you think they would do? Now they're no longer paying that retail card. They've now got 220 pounds free at the end of the month. What do you think most people will do with that free 220? Any thoughts?
Online shopping. Spend it.
Thank you. Online shopping. They'll be out in the shops. Now they've got 220 free at the end of the month. Fantastic. Okay, Christmas come early. Now, what we teach debt stacking. And debt stacking basically says, when you finish paying off that 220, don't go and blow that money. Put it onto this next debt. So instead of now paying 353, you're now paying 573. You see that? So you're not, just pretend like you're still paying this money out. Just ignore it. Continue paying it off. When you finish paying this, guess what? You put that 573 onto the next one. So instead of paying 551, you're now paying 1,124. And what you continue to do that and you continue to do that, and that's what you do, because you're still paying 2720 throughout until you get to this point, and then you're finished. Now let me show you how good this is. This person here who did not stack their debt, they just paid one off and then they spent the money, they blew it. They finished paying off that debt in 23 years. This person that did debt stacking, what I just showed you, they were done in 9 years, 14 years sooner. They avoid, this person, this person avoids an interest of £130,000. They only pay 83K, and the monthly payments is still the same amount. Let me ask you, which one do you prefer? Without debt stacking or with debt stacking? A or B, which one do you prefer? Yeah, anybody put anything in there? Which one do you prefer? You prefer, thank you, Marie. Yeah, we all prefer B. B is the way to go. Fantastic, thank you. Thank you for the, yeah, Nancy, B. Because with debt stacking, you pay the money off, yes, quicker. You're saving, you're paying it off in 9 years instead of 23 years. So these are just some of the things that we talk to people about becoming debt-free, being able to clear their debt quicker. Very, very important. Okay. And staying out of debt. What can you do to stay out of debt? Basically, monitor your mobile data and minutes. How much are you paying on your mobile? I see people, they're paying £90 a month because it's the new iPhone. Do you need it? They're paying unlimited minutes. You've got Wi-Fi. It's just really important to watch what you're paying your money for. Could you get a pay as you go? Could you do something different? Manage your credit card. If you have a credit card, what is the interest rate? Do you know the interest you're being charged on your credit card? Okay. Before you accept any renewal code. So what your credit card company will do, if you have a credit card, they will send you a message a few months or years after you've taken it and say, you know what, we're going to increase your money. So you have £2,000 on your credit card. Can we increase it to £3,000? That's one way of looking at this. The other way of looking at this is, let's say your car insurance. When you get your car insurance, you're paying £300 this year. Next year, they're going to come back to you and say your credit card, your car insurance, instead of £300 is now £400. What do? For a lot of people, they automatically take that money from your account. You need to make sure you stop them, shop around, and get the best deal for yourself. Don't just accept automatic renewals. Okay, very important, because that will save you a few quid. Yeah, do not do buy now, pay later. And if you're going to do that, then it's really important that you do the interest-free one and treat it like a fixed debt. Remember, we looked at revolving debt and fixed debt. Treat it like a fixed debt, so that if the interest-free period is 6 months, make sure you clear that money in 6 months. Because what generally happens is they say buy now, pay later. When that later comes, a lot of people can't afford to clear it. And so it goes into the interest rates. And then before you know it, average now for a lot of store cards is 29%. Remember, we just looked at the rule of 72. Again, this is how they catch people out. Yeah, there's voucher codes. Some shops, you have voucher codes that you can get, and you can buy things at a discount. Okay, when you're shopping, ask yourself this question: do I need this? A lot of us shop without really asking that question. We like it and we take it. Don't buy out of emotion. Don't buy when you're emotional. I actually say to my sons, when they really want something, give it 72 hours. You're in the shops and you see something you like and you want to buy it, stop, give it 72 hours. If you still want it after 72 hours, then come back and pick it up. Because a lot of the time we buy these things and we don't use them. If you have savings, sometimes it might be good to consider paying off your debt. The reason I say this is this. You've got £10,000 in your bank account. Your bank is giving you 3%. No, they're giving you 1% for your £10,000. However, with the same bank, you have a credit card and they're charging you 20%. Basically, you've given them your money, they've given it back to you, and they've charged you a higher interest. Again, it comes down to knowledge. You might sometimes be better off, instead of keeping that savings where you're getting 1%, pay off your debt. That way you can then invest that your money and make it work for you. All right. So very important to think about that, and then consider debt consolidation. Now, depending on where your finances are, some organizations will say, okay, you owe this money here, you owe this money there, you owe this money there. We'll bring it all together under one. Instead of you paying 4, 5, 6 different people, you can just pay one organization. Yeah, that is something you can consider doing depending on what you have. If you have a property or something like that, then you can look at those kind of things. All right. Any questions right now? Just before we go into expenses, we've looked at debt. We've been talking about debt. Any questions from anyone around what we've covered so far before we keep going?
Yes. Looking at this like debt consolidation, I once approached them and they looked into my situation and then advised me that I need to declare like I don't have enough, like I need to completely declare that I don't have any investments and all that, and then they would do the debt consolidation. But with that, it would take me a period of time for me to come off like it's like the list of like bad debts kind of thing. Does that affect? Well, I according to my understanding, I knew it would affect my credit in a way. So I said no, that I would do it myself. So I didn't understand exactly what they were saying. Like I need to declare like I don't have things of which, looking at it, I got mortgages that I was worried about.
Okay, so explain to me, what is that? Is that a question or a statement? I'm not too sure yet.
So I wanted to understand, like with this debt consolidation,
yes,
the people. So when you declare like you have debts with credit cards and loans, and you want it put together, but
okay,
the way they do it, how does it really work? Because I didn't understand it in the first place.
okay. So for some people, if they have a mortgage, for example, what you can do is do like a remortgage. So let's say your property is valued at £100,000 and you only owe £50,000 on it because you've been paying your mortgage and you paid off 50, you now owe 50. Some of the organizations will be happy to lend you maybe 10 or 20,000 pounds because you've got that your mortgage, you've got that property there, and you can take that 20,000 or 10,000, pay off the debts that you have and bring it under one roof, or they will take it on under your mortgage. It depends on the organizations that you're talking to. So did you say you have a mortgage?
Yeah, they looked at my finances because you have to literally tell them everything. So
yeah, and then it would also depend on what's coming in, what's going out. It would depend on how much you're earning and whether you can keep up their payments after they've lent. So there's a lot of different things that goes into it. They look at your credit rating as well, and that kind of comes up with how good are you at paying your debts? How good are you at keeping your balance in positive?
So they look at all those things. Yeah, come.
Sorry, so one of the things they'd look at in terms of answering your question, it's charity, isn't it?
Yes.
So one of the things they will look at is your credit history. So for example, you know, sometimes you might have a credit card bill, store card, and you might miss it for whatever reason. And then you see that little £12 or whatever they charge you. That
Yes.
is a strike against your credit. So a lot of people don't necessarily understand that. So when a lender is looking at your credit history, one of the first things they're going to do is to check your credit score. So it very well might be that you have 4 or 5 different things that you're paying out, £50, say £100 there, £20 there. If you put that all together, then you are very likely to be able to pay one loan that is £75 a month. However, what works against you is your credit history or a poor credit history. So if you've got something that it could have been 2 years ago, it could have been, you know, you have a phone, what's the thing called now? Phone contract, and you might have missed a payment only because, oh, whatever, you know, you went into overdraft, what have you. It counts against you. So sometimes it's not necessarily that you cannot afford the payments, but because your credit history says that you're not a good payer of debts, that also counts against you, if that makes sense. There's also things like the number of times you have been declined for a loan or for a credit card. So sometimes you might be trying to apply for, you know, for something. Let's say, you know, an emergency comes up, you need to borrow some money. If the bank looks at the amount of money you have going out, and that surpasses the amount of money you have coming in, then you look like a liability. You're high risk to them, so they're less likely to want to lend you money. So if you've been denied a loan, it counts against your credit. If you've missed a credit card, bank payment, phone card, store card payment, it counts against your credit. All of these things stack up against you as an individual. The other thing that many people might not necessarily know is that it takes a long time to remove these things from your credit record. So at least 7 years. So you could have, you know, taken out an Argos card 6 years ago, and missed one payment of 25 pence. Okay? That will stay on your record for 7 years as a negative. So it's one of these things, as Sam was saying, you have to really understand. You have to understand credit, you have to understand loans, and sometimes when you are in overdraft constantly as well, this is also a negative, because an overdraft, although they don't necessarily say that to you, is a loan, because it's not your money. If you've only got £50 in your account and you're spending 100, 50% of that is a loan. Overdrafts also come with differing interest rates, because a lot of them are not free. Okay. So it's all of these different things that when you're thinking about consolidating, you sometimes have to do your own background work to see actually, where can I go to best do this? The last thing I'll say is that there are things that are called soft checks and hard checks on your credit score. So I love what's this called now? Martin's Money Supermarket, because in there he explains to you a lot of stuff that can seem really confusing to most of us. Okay, he talks about credit cards, he talks about health insurance, he talks about car insurance, he talks about travel insurance, lots of different things, and he has a very good, easy breakdown of what all of these things mean. So sometimes, even if you can just be saying, oh, actually, you know what, I really want to go to holiday to Spain, but that's gonna cost me £1,000. I haven't got it. Let me just see what credit cards are available. If you're not careful, that is a hard, what is it called now? A hard check against your credit. So all of these things are little background checks that are happening that you don't know about. Why would we know? You know, you're just innocently searching, or you might put in, I want to borrow 3,500, and they come back and they say, oh, no, that counts as a negative against your credit score. So it's just having an understanding of all of these things, so that you're in a better position to make decisions and maybe understand why some of the things that happen do happen. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Gilda. Thank you for that. And again, you know, just hold on to your questions, put them in the chat box. We will answer questions at the end. I wanted to put it close to the end of debt. So today's topic, we're looking at debts. We're looking at expenses. So now we're going to go into expenses. And this is really talking about expense management. And to start this off, if you don't take anything away from this discussion today, this page is the one thing you should take away. The golden rule of credit is pay your debt off in the shortest possible time. Shortest possible time. Pay it off as quickly as you can. Money in your pocket is better than money in somebody else's pocket. I'm sure you would agree with that. But the golden rule, the first step more than anything else to becoming debt-free is to spend less than you earn. Okay, spend less than you earn. We're going to be talking about budgeting at a future session. So we're going to talk about that later on. But it's so important. It's so important that you spend less than you earn. If you don't go away with anything today, please take that with you. Because one of the challenges I see when I sit down with families, I sit down with families on a daily basis, and I look through their finances, and I'm like, okay, your net income, your leftover money at the end of the month, I saw somebody not too long ago was minus about 700 every month. Minus 700. I'm like, where's all this coming from? And a lot of the time, there are things you can do to deal with that. So it's really important that you take a note of this. Spend less than you're making. And it's really important that you pay yourself first, okay? Pay yourself first. You work hard for your money. You wake up in the morning or at night, you go to work. Some of us are doing, I spoke to a gentleman a few weeks ago. He's working 77 hours a week. 77 hours a week working. That does not include his travel time, actively working. And so how much do you have in savings? Oh, no, not. But you work hard. So really important, and a good way to calculate that really is, we say it's not what you earn, it's what you keep that counts. You may be earning £1 million a month. How much of that are you keeping? So what I want you to do now is, if you've got a pen and paper, I want you to do a calculation of how much of the percentage of your income that you have saved. So A, how much is your annual income right now? Okay, so your annual income, let's say is, let me just do some sort of maths here. Let's say it's £50,000. Okay, so I'm going to write on the board just for people to see. So let's say your annual income is £50,000. Okay, 50K. All right. Now, how many years have you worked? So let's say you've worked for 25 years so far. Okay, 25 years you've been working for. All right. Now, somebody do the math for me, please. What's 25,000 times, what's 50,000 times 25? Anybody got a calculator there? And I hope you're doing this for your own personal finance. 50,000 times 25 is 1,250. So basically, we've got 1.25. All right. How much have you got saved right now? how much would you say you have in your savings? So let's say you've got £5,000 in your savings right now. Okay, so divide D by C. So basically, we're dividing 5,000 divided by 125,000. So basically, the percentage of savings that you have of your working life is 0.004%. 0.004%. This is somebody who's been working 25 years. And it's interesting because in Yorkshire, the money survey in Yorkshire, it says about 50.2% of people have less than £100 in savings. 50.2% of people in Yorkshire have less than £100 in savings. A lot of us work for many, many years. We don't have £500 in a savings account. Somebody can say something's happened and your car tire is gone and you need to replace it quickly. Most of us do not have that money to replace it. And I think it's really important that we think of what we do when it comes to our money. All right, so let me just get rid of this quickly. Hold on, bear with me 1 second. I'm trying to get rid of it. It's not working. Just bear with me 1 second. So really important that we can start thinking of what we're doing when it comes to our money. Okay. All right, let me share my screen again. Sorry about that. So take a picture of this, put this in. One of the things I want to talk to you right now about really is about how do you save? How do you actually develop a savings plan? How do you manage your expenses? And the way I talk to people, the way I teach people is there's 3 things you should do with your money about paying yourself first. Okay? When it comes to paying yourself first, because you work hard for your money, there's something I teach called 10-10-10-70. Okay? 10-10-10-70. Basically, the first 10% that you earn, you give away. I think for a lot of us here, we're blessed more than majority of people in the country. And I believe if you give, you will receive. That's me. Mm-hmm. Okay? If you go to church, tithe. If you don't go to church, there are charities across the UK. That Name Woman is a charity. They're helping women across the world. There's a charity that you can give to. This organization organizing this, they're a charity. The money has to come from somewhere. So 10% of what's coming in, give away, bless other people. The next 10%, save for an emergency fund. And when we talk about an emergency fund, we're talking about 3 to 6 months of your expenses in an account. So that if anything happens, you lose your job, because for those of you with jobs, your jobs is only as good as your manager still wants you there. Your job is only as good as the economy. If anything happens, your boss will sack you before he loses his own money. Okay, so let's just get that clear. All right. So 3 to 6 months of your expenses needs to be in a short-term account, so that if you need that money, at least you've got 3 months or 6 months expenses. The next 10% you save for a long term, for retirement. Remember the picture I showed you at the beginning? Out of 100 people, only 5% will be financially okay at 65. Where are you going to be? The people that are okay, majority of them, okay, majority of them have put something away. Majority of them have saved something. Okay, so really important that we can all get onto that. It's really important that we can, and then What happens is the remaining 70, guess what? Use that for your expenses. Your gas, your water, your electric, your mortgage, your rent, your expenses, all that comes from your expenses. So let me repeat that. You get paid at the end of the month. 100% of your money gets paid to you. The first 10%, bless others. The next 10%, save for an emergency fund. The next 10%, invest in the long-term future for your future, and then leave off the remaining 70. Is this easy to do? It's not easy, I know, okay? I know it's not easy to do. So really, what I want to encourage you to do is to start where you are right now. This says it's a CCMP. A CCMP, and we're going to cover this another time. A CCMP is a clear, concise mental picture of what you want. Okay, so what do you want? If you can't do 10, 10, 10, 70, can you do 5, 5, 5, 85? Can you do 2, 2, 2, 94? Focus on what you can do right now and get into the habit of doing that. As you get into the habit and as you continue to do it, guess what? You'll find yourself increasing those percentages, but you've got to start. Remember, at the beginning, we spoke about being intentional. If you're not intentional, it's not going to happen. You've got to, it's the consistency that really helps. Now, again, if you can't do 10, 10, 10, start where you are. Do 1, 1, 197. But consistently do it and then be intentional. Now, some people, I spoke to somebody not too long ago. They're like, I'm spending more than I'm earning. Okay. What if you're living on 110%? Okay. For those living in overdraft, the key here is to reduce your outgoings and increase your income. Simple. No, it's not that simple. I said simple, but in theory, it's simple. In practice, not so. Okay? The reason why it's not simple in practice is because of discipline. Discipline. A lot of us, we want what we want, and we do what we want to do. Wants versus needs. You want to buy a TV. You need a new TV. You've got £1,000. There's one for 300. There's one for 1,000. What do you do? Oh wow, the £1,000 one. It's an Apple touch screen. Rah 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 rah. I want that one. That's it's about that. It's about thinking, do I need that really expensive one? Can I get an equally good one? You know, immediate gratification. Do I need to buy that shoe now? Or can I put this money away for a long term and invest it? Instead of spending £1,000 on that TV, buy one for 300 and invest the 700. You've seen the rule of 72. It's about time. If you invest that 700 in an investment pot, you know how much that money will grow over time. That TV is going to be, it's not going to work after so many more years. So again, it's just really thinking about what's coming in and what's going out. Thinking about discipline is the key. This, I'm going to go back up. This is what we need to do, but it's not easy. And that's where discipline comes in. List out what you spend your money on and where you can cut back. Okay. One thing I give to people is I give people something. This is called a fat find. It finds fat in your budget. If you send Emmy your email address, the organizer of this event, I'll be able to send that. I'll be able to send this out to you in an email. It's a spreadsheet. You put in what's coming in monthly, where you can reduce. How much are you spending on Sky movies? It's the same movies they recycle every 6 months anyway. Okay. How much are you spending on internet? Do you shop out? Do you shop around? Do you eat out? Do you buy lunch, or you make extra in the evening and then take it into work the next day and have that for lunch? Sometimes they actually taste better the next day. I know the curry my wife cooks, it always tastes better the next day. Yeah, so cook extra in the evening and eat the rest over lunch instead of going out to buy lunch every day. Do you have a budget planner? Do you use mobile apps? Do you monitor how much you spend? When you go to the shop, do you have a list of things that you're going to buy? We're going to go through that at a different time, okay, in the future. But what we do as a company, we're all about education. We teach people how money works, how to work their money, how to make more money, how to become debt-free, and how to become financially independent. The reason Emmy's brought us in is that we empower families for the future. They say, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish, you feed him for life. What we do is we teach you how to fish. We teach you how to catch that fish yourself when it comes to your finances. Because a lot of the time, what happens is this. People don't plan to fail. They just fail to plan. And the problem is we go to banks, we go to financial institutions, and they sell us products. They sell you a mortgage. They give you a credit card. They give you pensions. They give you a bank account. We know what we want, but we don't understand it. So sometimes they just sell us products. I know this for a fact because it happened to me. All right. What we do as an organization is we provide you with a plan. Okay, a plan it's like a sat nav, like a GPS, but it's for your money. And the plan basically gives you a clear route from where you are to where you want to go, so you can worry less about money and enjoy life more. It's about giving you answers to those questions. What's your FIN number? Your FIN number is your financial independence number. So retirement is not about your age. If you had money now, let's say if you had 60K coming every year passively, would you still need to be working right now? Probably not. Whatever your age is right now. Okay, so retirement is not about your age, it's really about how much money you've got in the bank. Do you know when you're going to be debt-free? If you have any debt right now, do you know what your debt freedom date is? Can you tell me what that date is? Very important to put these things in place. All right. Now, we've come to the end of that session. All right. That was session 2. Session 2 was looking at debts and looking at expenses. Session 3 next week, we're going to be looking at income, expenditure, telling your money where to go. Because remember, if you don't tell your money where to go, guess what's going to happen? It's going to go all over the place. So really important that we can tell our money where to go. So we're going to be covering that by God's grace next week, Saturday. That's me done, really. If you have any questions, I'm going to hand you over to Gilda now to take us on to the next phase. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you everyone as well for your input in the chat and for coming with a mindset of learning. So I'm hoping that by the time we get through all of these sessions, for those of you who will be here for all of them, that you will leave wiser than you started. Some things that you thought you knew, you might have learned something different. You might have forgotten some of the old things that you've been taught about money and how we treat it. But most importantly, you will have the tools that you need to help you get out of debt. Some debt is good, dare I say. Some of it if we need a mortgage, most of us will not have a wad of cash sitting somewhere that we can just easily scoop up and go and put 350K on a house. But we just have to really teach our money how to behave, and that's what we're hoping we'll be able to do through these sessions. So next week, God willing, we will be back. What's next week's session? Let me go and find the income and expenditure. So we really need to understand what money have we got coming in. And when I say money, that could be from our salary if we're at work, That could be if you've got children, child benefit, if you get any tax credits, if you're on benefits, it could be your, what do they call it now? Can't remember. But you know what I'm talking about. And it's just understanding what money you have coming in and how you can maximize it for you. So yeah, so we'll open up the floor now if anybody has any comments, any feedback, any questions, or if there's anything that we can answer or we can't answer today, we'll definitely go away and find out and come back to you. So please feel free to unmute yourselves, and we always love interaction so that we don't feel like we're talking to ourselves, and we can ensure that actually what we're providing is useful to the people who we are sharing information with. So yeah, thank you. And Emmy, is there anything that you'd like to share? Come in here.
What have I done? Yeah, Hilda and Sam, I just want to say thank you, because the truth is most of us are in the state of not being in control of our finances. So these sessions are really, really important to us. And I just like the way you wrote it down, Gilda, for next section, telling your money where to go. So I am looking forward to the remaining sessions, and I just want to say thank you.
Just to say, Njofi, thank you so much for putting your camera on. You know, it'd be good to have more people have their cameras on so we can see each other and look into each other's eyes and be able to, you know, share. Because I always say to people, when I'm on Zoom with you and you're not on camera, unless you're at work or you're on the bus, it's like me coming to your house and you're hiding behind the curtains. That's basically what it looks like. So it'd be encouraging to have more people with their faces on. But let me just share this real quick. If you do want, there's a, if you want a copy of, with my company, we've got a book called Your Journey to Financial Freedom. If you want a copy of that book, please feel free to take a picture, send me a message or an email, preferably email, it'll make life easier for me. And then I'll be able to send you a copy of that book. Just thank you, you know, just a thank you from Emmy and the organization for coming, because you've taken your time to be here today. So I'm happy to, that book is on Amazon. You can buy it if you want, or you can get a free electronic copy. But yeah, thanks, Amy, for having me on.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I don't know if there are any other questions.
Any questions from anyone? We stunned you into silence.
Right. I have a comment. All right. Thank you so much.